good texts from those of you who have retired, thinking about retiring, and maybe what holds some of you back from retiring is wondering what your life is going to be like, and will you be challenged? You're going 100 miles per hour, this one texter says, and all of a sudden, it's nothing. How do you do that transition? And it does affect your brain health, according to recent studies. Joining us now, an expert on this topic on the John Schuster Coldwell Banker Hotline, Leigh Richardson, brain health coach and consultant. She's a licensed professional counselor, the founder of the Brain Performance Center. Leigh, we're getting a lot of texts this morning from listeners who struggle with this. What it basically is the research showing about brain health once someone retires?
Well, it's interesting because retirement is something we think about and we plan for all of our lives, and then it happens and we don't really know what to do with it. And what research is showing is that you've got to stay engaged. You've got, when you leave your job, get a hobby, get connected, whether that's to your family, to your church, to a gym routine. But the brain has this philosophy, it's use it or lose it. If you quit using it, you're going to lose it.
And that's what the research is showing from what I'm seeing. Just in Europe, they've studied 8,000 retirees and found that it really affected verbal memory as well.
Absolutely, because those are pathways in the brain. And, when we retire, let's say we've been in a job where we're very active and we probably talk 50% of the day. And now all of a sudden we're home and it's quiet and we're not thinking about what we're going to say as much. And so those pathways, those auditory processing and that connection between the frontal lobe, which is word recall, and the temporal lobe, which is verbal memory, it gets really weak. So for everybody that's retiring, I encourage them to have a plan, to have a good idea on how they're going to work that brain out a little bit every day.
Okay, some people want to relax, though. You work your whole life and you save all this money and you retire. What's a good balance? What's a good balance of just hanging out on the couch and being, just kind of hanging out, a couch potato, and also doing something to engage your brain?
Well, you hit it on the head, and it's called balance. You've got to have that because certainly we want to relax. We want to maybe take time to practice mindfulness or practice gratitude that we just didn't have time to do. So, I have a couple of tips that I use when I am trying to find balance. And let's say I've waited all my life, I'm retired, now I have time to do this, whatever this is. And we don't seem to it doesn't seem to fit. And I suggest that people do what I call habit stacking. What is the one thing that you really want to do that you haven't been able to do? Stack that with a habit you already have. For instance, if I decided this year that into January, I want to have more gratitude in my life. And I'm going to do that every morning. Well, you know what happens when you get up in the morning. The dog has to be fed. You got to check your email, and it doesn't happen. So I made a decision. I said, okay, when I have my coffee is when I'm going to do my gratitude. And I put those two activities together. And guess what? It's happening.
That's a great idea. The other thing that concerns me is not only is cognitive decline a concern, but depression. And I know your gratitude thing does play into helping that, but, a lot of people who retire face, concerns about depression because of lack of activity and engagement.
Absolutely, and because of loss. And, you may have just hated that going to work every day, but I would bet you there was one or two things that you're going to miss about it. And, maybe it's the people. Maybe it's the place where you used to have lunch every day. So I think that we do lose something when we retire. And that, think about what you're going to miss and think about how you're going to replace it. Because nothing makes you feel better than to do something for somebody else I encourage clients as they go through retirement, find something to volunteer in, and maybe you won't have time for it. Maybe you won't like it, but you have a transition, you have a bridge to get you to the other side.
Some great advice, a lot to think about for those getting closer to that retirement age. Leigh Richardson, thanks so much for joining us. Where can we learn more about the Brain Performance Center that you founded?
Absolutely. You can find us on Facebook, on Instagram. You can find me on LinkedIn. And we have that good old-fashioned website, thebrainperformancecenter.com.
Leigh, thank you so much. Gave us a lot to think about. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Leigh Richardson, brain health coach and consultant. She's the founder of the Brain Performance Center. It is 8:28. I'm fascinated reading all the texts that are coming in from those of you who are thinking about retirement and also those of you who have retired and have encountered this. I'll chat with Steve about it coming up after News.